So, I'm going to be explaining why you're depressed, why you want to die or why you want to kill yourself, and why life is ultimately meaningless in this video. Now, this may sound like, ironically, a depressing topic, but I want to talk about this in a more objective way and just lay everything out. I don't want this to be like a fake upbeat video, but I also don't want it to be just like, oh, woe is me, and like a depressing video. I just want to explain how I see things and why I believe so many people, including myself, are so depressed, why we want to die, and why we see life as ultimately meaningless. So basically, I want to start off by saying, with the first thing I want to start off with saying that yes, life is meaningless. There is no inherent meaning to life. Now, what do I mean by this? Basically, I mean it in the way that I understand nihilism, that yeah, there is no inherent meaning in life, and that it's just whatever. We're all just kind of thinking, beings out here in the world, and yes, there is no inherent meaning to things. Things just kind of are the way that they are. And if you're an existential nihilist, more like myself, then you understand that meaning kind of just comes from your mind, just whatever meaning that you ascribe to your life, and that, the personal values you hold. So why does this relate into why you're depressed? Well, obviously, meaning psychologically is connected to your emotional well-being. But not only that, let's analyze what's actually going on in terms of beings. Like, how did we get to thinking that life is meaningless in the first place? Well, it's because our mind can ponder these questions about life and start thinking things like why are we here? What's the point of being here? I mean, we're surrounded by so much suffering, and yes, there is also, people say focus on the good, look at the happiness, but really, I think if you're being totally objective, if you're looking at the world, more people are suffering and more beings are suffering. There's just so much suffering. I mean, in terms of humanity's at like top of the food chain, apex predators, and so many human beings are still suffering so much. And then you just look at any other animals, and they're suffering so much, whether they be in, farms, factory farms, or just even in nature, what animals are doing to each other. It's pretty horrendous. So it seems like most beings in life, they live a pretty bad life, miserable most of the time, deal with really bad conditions. But you see, what separates us from them is that how we got to thinking about life as meaningless, because most other animals, from what we can tell, they don't really ponder these kind of questions. They live moment to moment. They live in the moment. And so that's why they don't have as much existential dread, or any, from what we understand. But of course they still suffer immensely, but their goal is to continue on living. And that's why we were able to ponder these questions in the first place. That's the point I'm getting at, is that this mind that we have was evolved for survival. The level of intelligence we evolved to have that in order to help us survive. But here's the catch. The bad part is that yes, while our minds evolved to this level to help us survive, it also evolved in a way that we can conceptualize these big questions in life, like what's the meaning of life? Why are we all here? What's with the point of continuing and living when there's all this suffering? So yes, we were able to ponder these questions, and that's the downside of having this level of intelligence as a species. So yeah, and ironically, it makes a lot of people not want to live and not, want to procreate, etc., because it's just like you're faced with the total meaninglessness of life and see all this suffering, then it's like, why even continue? And honestly, this makes perfect logical sense. People might say, oh, you have such a negative disposition about life. You might be, they might say you're mentally ill, you're depressed, you're neurotic. But no, if you're actually looking at things objectively, I mean, that makes perfectly clear sense. If you're experiencing suffering and life is ultimately meaningless, and the only meaningful thing in life is happiness and pleasure, then of course it makes sense that if life is full of suffering, why continue living? Why continue your lineage and contribute to more suffering in the world? And I guess that kind of goes into antinatalism and ephilism, which I don't really want to talk about much in this video. But yes, if you are experiencing extreme suffering, then of course, yes, it makes logical sense to say, if you also believe life is meaningless and the only meaning in life is your the happiness, and some people might say eudaimonia, like Aristotle in his view, like personal flourishing. If you're just totally failing at life, or not even failing at life, if you're just like anhedonic and you cannot derive happiness from this world, then yes, it makes sense to feel totally suicidal, to want to die, to not want to continue living, not want to do anything when you're faced with so much pain and suffering. So, yeah, that's the reason why people are depressed, is because you acknowledge that, yes, life is meaningless. Then you also, your personal state is messed up. Maybe you're going through stuff in life. Maybe you do have a mental health condition, mental illness, where your mind is not functioning properly and you're unable to be happy in a more, normal way, or biochemically your brain is not working right, or neurological problems, etc., etc. So if you have these issues and you're confronted with that, then yeah, I think it makes sense to say that yes, my life is meaningless, and then you're going to be persistently depressed when you realize that there's like no point in the suffering. Because you see, with the religious mindset, and yes, I was religious before, that you have there's more like meaning to your suffering. But the problem with religious mindset is, of course, that I don't think it holds weight logically. It's built upon faith, so it's contingent upon whether or not you have faith. And a big problem with religion, of course, is like the problem of good and evil, and well, the problem of evil specifically. And also, even let's say a God does exist, and the God says that this is the meaning of life. Who is to say that the God is right? Like, where's the law saying that everything this God says is right? You know what I'm saying? So I think if meaning exists, it would have to be separate from a God. It would have to be like its own entity, like this is meaning over here, and that's in and of itself. But I guess people, they try to believe that, or they'll say meaning and God are one, and so whatever God says is meaning, but it's kind of just like a circular reasoning there. So that's what I'm saying is, yeah, once you reject religion and you realize life is ultimately meaningless, and then any pain in your life can feel like, what's the point in living? Because if I'm just miserable and I'm suffering, then what in the world is the point of continuing? I do think there are some reasons, such as if you're an empathetic individual, or empathic, I don't know if I'm using that term right. Like, if you're a feeling individual and you want to help others in this world, be it humans, be it animals, be just your environment, or build something beautiful with your life, in your eyes, then maybe you have a reason to keep going. But at the same time, when you're faced with a lot of suffering and you just don't feel good on a day-to-day basis, and you can't get out of bed, then you start to wonder what's the point in continuing? Because like I said, with non-human animals, then they just think, well, all right, I got to figure out a way to get better, or I'm just going to lay down and die, because the suffering is the very basic indicator of death for us. We're supposed to avoid suffering because it represents, like, the entire reason we feel suffering is so that we avoid it. It's like a signal that our bodies and our minds give us to avoid something in order to survive. You know, just like the hot stove. Like, the whole reason it's painful is so that we avoid it because it's destructive to us. So, when the entirety of life becomes engulfed in suffering, it makes sense to avoid it because it's just like, this whole life is suffering. I just want to avoid life. And I think it makes perfect sense why people are suicidal, why you want to die. I get up sometimes, I want to die, and I've tried to kill myself before. It's honestly a lot harder than you think it is. If you've never genuinely made an attempt, it's quite difficult. But I think there's something to be said about videos like this that are pushed down in the algorithm, that are censored, because I think it exposes something that people are afraid of. The people who repress this feeling of wanting to die, and they repress their beliefs about life is meaningless, and they try to just mask it and carry on, and, you know, put on the mask and the fake smiles and continue on. And I'm not saying that you have to be a downer or anything. I'm just saying they refuse to look at things objectively and just admit the truth to themselves. But I think videos like this and talking like this, it kind of, it's shunned because it's almost harmful to them, because it attacks what they believe and their worldview, and it shatters you know, their happiness, because it's built on a pile of sand. You know, the castle comes crumbling down very quickly when you just say, yeah, if we're just all constantly suffering, then what the heck is the point of continuing? Now, I just wanted to say, is life worth living? Well, I really think that's up to the individual. I mean, who am I to make that judgment for you? And maybe you're feeling suicidal right now, but I think the most empowering thing is to say, well, ultimately that's up to you, and that's your life and your decision to make. And a lot of other people will just come on here and say, oh, you're beautiful, and oh, you're so special, and, you know, don't kill yourself, and do, you know, be happy, and blah, 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 talk to people and everything, and the whole thing. But I mean, I don't know what helped me when I was very suicidal and I wanted to genuinely die. I mean, some days, like today, do I want to die? I don't know. It's like, if I die today, I don't know if I would feel, you know, how could I feel bad? Because I wouldn't even be here anymore. It'd just be like nothingness. So, yeah, that's how I see things. Am I a suicidal individual? I'm not. Not right now. I'm just sharing my thoughts, this take on the world that, yes, life is meaningless. This is the real reason you're depressed, because something is wrong with you, your life is messed up, or you have, you know, neurological problems, or you just recognize all the suffering, and you're a very empathic individual, and it just crushes you. So that's another reason. And yeah, and then you realize those two things combined, if life is just about pursuing happiness and feeling happy, and then you realize, what's the point in continuing to survive when there's just constant suffering, when we're programmed to avoid suffering. You can't rewrite the script, you can't avoid the programming. So perhaps there is a way around this. That's just everything that I've thought for a while. I want to say straight up in this video, I'm not encouraging anyone to kill themselves. I'm not saying, yes, if you feel this way, you absolutely should die. But at the same time, I don't want to come on this video and be corny, and I want to be raw in this video and just give it to people straight. People probably have these ideas, but they can't really, what do you call it? Like, articulate them clearly. But maybe I put your thoughts into words, and if so, let me know in the comments. But I think in a way it can be cathartic to actually understand what's going on. And yeah, if you don't want to live anymore, I think that's at least your right to believe that, and your right to feel the way that you feel about this world. Um, yeah, it's absolutely full of suffering, and I do believe in the principle that I don't believe all life is suffering, but I do believe that is like the basic core tenet that we all suffer, and whether you think that we should just our principle in life should be absolutely avoid suffering at all costs. I don't know if that's the case. At the same time, it seems kind of logical, but I don't know if I subscribe to that notion because, like I said, some people are happy, and I believe that if you're not hurting others, then I mean, you can carry on. But so basically, to recap, yes, you think life is meaningless because we were given this mind with the ability to realize that and actually, ponder these bigger questions. Whereas other species of animals, they kind of just live moment to moment. From what we understand, they don't really philosophize about these types of things, which I guess is good for them. But at the same time, they just go on and they're primarily concerned with survival. They don't ask the deeper question. A cat chasing a mouse doesn't ask the deeper question like, why am I chasing the mouse to begin with? Like, why do I even want to capture them and eat them and just like live in the first place? Like, what's the point? It's just the same thing over and over again until I die. This endless cycle of excitement that they call a life. So it's just like, what's the point in that anyways? And it's all just feelings. It's all just chemicals in your brain. And I don't want to come on here as like a doomer. I'm just trying to be absolutely objective about things. And yeah, anyways, that's about it. I think that I have to say. So it's up to you. If you want to be happy, then you got to find that happiness in your life. But at the same time, I'm saying it makes perfect, reasonable, logical sense why some people, they want to die, they want to take their own lives, they don't want to be here in the world. Why they're depressed, there's plenty of valid reasons to be depressed. Yeah, there's plenty of valid reasons to hate life. Uh, and basically, yeah, why life is meaningless. It just makes total sense to me that, at least in the sense that there is no inherent meaning, and that meaning is something that comes from within, that your mind just perceives. Like I said, the cat chasing the mouse, like that's their meaning in life, because that's what fulfills them, that's what keeps them going. No, I guess at least more like a stray cat. You get the analogy, but fat cats at home, they kind of just lay around and they just wait for you to open up the food for them or put the food for them. So, yeah, that's how they live life. And then that's their endless cycle of excitement that they find fulfillment in. It's just that sensory pleasure. And that's the dark truth of life. So, yeah, let me know if you agree in the comments, if this was cathartic for you, if I put your thoughts into words, or maybe tell me how I'm wrong. Maybe life does have meaning, and I am a doomer. I don't really know. So, thanks for watching.